And we are live once again. Hello and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Do It Yourself Pleasure Hot Rodding. The car that I'm sitting on, everyone is very familiar with. It's a car that you regularly see here on the Prince Magnum channel. We work on it here on the Prince Magnum channel. You get to see all the updates and everything that happens. This is Project Spirit, my 1975 Ford Maverick. We all love Project Spirit. Project Spirit's a lot of fun to drive, and it really is the car that built the Prince Magnum channel. The Prince Magnum channel is the house that Project Spirit built. Most people, when they sign on, become members of the Maverick Nation. They come on because of Project Spirit. That being said, we do have a Project Spirit does have a co-star, and a lot of people aren't super familiar with it, but die-hard members of the Maverick Nation are. That is none other than Project Lena, a 2003 Pontiac Grand Am GT. This is going to be a side-by-side comparison of the two, and you all are going to see some of the modifications, and at the same time, you're going to see some of the similarities between the two, because believe it or not, there is. Real quick, we talk about this all the time here since it's been done. Project Spirit having her retro style pinstriping that you would have seen very commonplace in the 1970s. It would have been something that every hot rodder did under the sun. And it really sets the old girl off. But we don't talk about this enough when it comes to Project Lena. Take a look at the amazing pinstriping that Princess Faye did to Project Lena. The way she found the body lines that really work very well with Project Lena, and it flows very nicely over the hood and actually right down the sides. It's a little difficult when you get up here, which is why she's even talked about switching over to doing the dual pinstripe that's on Project Spirit. And believe it or not, in my opinion, really sets the old girl off. I say old because I just got looking at the date. Project Lena is 15 years old, and in another 5 years, she will reach classic status as far as cars go. That being said, believe it or not, despite technology, several years between the two, believe it or not, they have a great deal in common, and you would be shocked to see that. And we're actually going to compare the two side by side and walk through the similarities and some of the differences. Okay? For starters, believe it or not, these two cars actually weigh almost the same amount. They're both around, believe it or not, 4,000 pounds. And you'll understand in a second why they weigh almost the same. Now, Project Spirit, despite the fact that she's very simple in nature, has a lot of steel in her. A lot of steel. And with her four doors, believe it or not, she gets very heavy. Ford had to add a lot of weight to these cars because they had issues with their suspensions. Believe it or not, the suspension underneath Project Spirit is very, very similar to the Mustangs of the 1960s and early 70s, which had a lot of issues. So in order to get them to hold the road like every other vehicle of their time, they added weight, and hence a lot of steel. That's why you have heavy steel construction. I mean, you get the idea. We're not going to do that over here.
I got scared there for a minute.
Project Lena, her body is getting thinner, lighter, but immediately the reason why her weight factor goes back up is because she is a four-door for one. The other is that she has a lot of electronics and other gadgetry jammed in her, meaning the weight goes back up. That's why, believe it or not, these cars weigh almost the same. Spooky, huh? Now, both of these cars are also built to be the econo boxes of their day, okay? And even though they had performance packages during their time, they were meant as economy family cars, okay? They're compact, if you will. Project Lena is a compact, sporty economy car. Same thing. This was the 70s equivalent of the compact economy sports car, if you will. You know, so the two have already, you could start seeing right now that there is a lot in common with these two rides. Let's begin with actually a more detailed side by side. Okay. Now, I had already popped the hood. It's not that easy. You actually have to go in and pop it from inside, then come out and hit the safety release. Right away, hood prop. This was designed to save on weight. I'm not necessarily a big fan of hood props. I've had one vehicle that I accidentally bumped the hood prop. The hood came down and about took my fingers off, and it hurt. If you've ever had your hand slammed in a hood, it freaking hurts. Okay? Now, Project Lena has a transverse for front wheel drive V6, the 3400 series, fuel injected, 3.4 liter V6, which generates about 125 horses, close to about 200 foot-pounds of torque. Not half bad, right? She comes with ram air induction, and we'll explain the ram air induction here in just a second. For her time, this was very swift, and even today, the throttle response is very crisp. It's very responsive. Just amazing at the throttle response that her V6 puts down. Again, believe it or not, there's a lot of similarities. Before we begin going into super detail, let's go ahead and get the hood up on Project Spirit. Project Spirit is much easier to do, but you're going to right away also again see some serious similarities right away. Hood latch is on the outside along with the safety catch, but hood prop. This was done to save weight, okay? Again, I'm not a big fan of it, and as soon as I can figure out a way, I'm going to get some actual hood hinges on this sucker because I don't like this, okay? But Project Spirit has her original 43 going on 44-year-old inline 250, which when you break it down into liters, believe it or not, is 4.1 liters, okay? Little bit more cubic inches than Project Lena, but we're going to see as the video progresses, the similarities are almost uncanny, okay? So, and her inline 6 has been updated for car shows. Obviously, this is not, this is not the original paint. This is not the original paint. Princess Faye's amazing artwork again on Project Spirit, really setting the old girl off, making her really, really, truly shine. And we don't do a whole lot. I mean, we do some performance stuff. However, it's one of those things that we're more focused on car shows because there's enough people doing racing and drifting and everything else. Not to say that Project Spirit couldn't. She can. There's plenty of video here on the Prince Magnum channel showing she can hold her own in today's in today's car society. She can rub fenders with the best of them. But again, that's not what she was designed for. All right. Now, if I can get my lovely wife to come with me, and we'll begin with the co-star Project Lena. Again, right away, the ram air induction, the way that this works is right underneath here is where the air goes to cool the radiator, and you would think that the vents up on the hood are the ram air induction. You're actually wrong. The ram air induction on this particular vehicle, the way it works, the air comes in here through these scoops, which is a typical design of Pontiac, just fitting this stuff in wherever you can. And like a lot of your vehicles today, there is a connection that runs here down to the fender that pulls the air up into the air filter box like normal. They added the ram air induction. The air comes through here, it's grabbed by the scoop, pulled down through here, right into the air filter box, giving her an increase in performance. Pretty nifty if you ask this guy right here. So you will, from the factory, cold air induction added into this car. Now, the design flaw of this is that you have to change the air filter a little bit more often because it still has this tube over here that connects into the air filter box, and if you live in Missouri, at some point it's very dirty. It's very filthy as far as the roads go. A lot of dust, and at some point you're going to end up on a gravel road. And this tube acts like a giant vacuum cleaner. So if you own a late model car, change your air filter often, especially if you live in dusty areas like Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, anywhere like that, especially here in the Midwest. Okay. And of course, like usual on every vehicle that comes from here, this is ram air induction, and this is actually, you know, part of the GT package. And again, this is an improvement as far as performance goes. Now, we're going to come right over here to Project Spirit. Now, when Project Spirit left the factory, technically in 1974, listed as a 1975, you all will understand how that works when it comes to new cars. There used to be a snorkel that came that jutted up off of the air cleaner assembly. Had this stupid weird system that was to help with the believe it or not, it was designed to help with the choke, but we found that actually didn't do what it was supposed to do. So a lot of times hot rodders took them off immediately. But to go along with that, there used to be a tube that ran, that kind of connected right onto that snorkel, which I actually still have that snorkel that connected in here. It's actually in her trunk. And it ran right up alongside here. The battery was actually a little bit smaller, pulled in closer to the body, and connected right here at this opening right here, right next to the radiator. If you will, very early cold air induction on these cars, and it was designed to increase the airflow to the engine, giving you better combustion, lowering the amount of gas that it took to do the job that it was doing. Surprise, surprise. The same exact setup still being used today. It looks a little bit different, but it's the same thing. The same concepts are in place. By the way, they were even using plastic tubing, just like over on Project Lena. And that was in 1975 that we were seeing this sort of stuff come into cars like Project Spirit. Surprise. By the way, there's like a half a gazillion vacuum lines that connect in on this system, including even a fuel vapor canister and things like that. Most of us, what we immediately did is we started removing all of that excess BS off of it and started plugging those up. Again, this was in an attempt to clean up the act of these cars, which in reality all you had to do was just keep them tuned up. Okay? So amazingly enough, already you can see a great deal of similarities in these vehicles right away. Okay? Now, it should also be noted that again, these cars also, both of them have to be cool. Yes, the engines are set up differently, but this is around the time that air conditioning was getting more and more popular, and air conditioning started finding their ways into vehicles. Now today, it's standard. In these days, it was optional. And a lot of times, if you find air conditioning on a vehicle like this, it almost looks like an afterthought in the engine bay. And most of the time, it was very heavy, and it robbed the engine of power. So if it didn't have it, a lot of times you found solid steel fans, because the engine bay getting too cool would actually mess with the air conditioning. It didn't work right, and believe it or not, from what I understand, you could freeze up an air conditioning unit if the engine bay gets too cool.
Hi, person.
We have someone on. If you have any questions, Princess Faye will read them off, and I'll do my best to answer them as the stream continues.
Or just comments. You don't have to ask a question. You can just say hi.
Okay. So.
Bye.
Well, hello there. The solid steel fan does not wear out. So, because of this, this is why we've just cleaned it up, and Princess Faye's artwork is again on this fan. And how great are these solid steel fans? Well, technically, this should actually have a fan shroud to help guide the air back to the engine, but it doesn't have to have it. It doesn't have to have it because of the solid steel fan. Now, as time goes on, with air conditioning becoming more and more popular on vehicles, they started putting on these clutch fans that at a certain RPM, the fan itself would stop spinning. The engine would still be running, but it would stop spinning. So every now and again, you had to replace that fan, or just take the air conditioning unit off, go back to a solid steel fan or a flex fan, and you never had that problem again. However, as time progresses, people think that they have to have air conditioning, and on Project Lena, if I can get my wife to kind of step over, underneath this entire mess is an electric fan. Now, what this is designed to do is it cycles on and off as the engine temperature goes up.
Hi, Itme. I'm glad you could make it. What are we doing during the stream?
We're doing a side-by-side comparison of Project Spirit and Project Lena. Where the similarities and the differences are. Okay. So the electric fan cycles on and off with the temperature. Believe it or not, the thermostats inside the thermostat housings on these vehicles are almost identical in design. The sizes may vary, and the thicknesses of the plate that juts up, that kind of goes up against the impression inside the engine. All of that changes, but the design is pretty much exactly the same. But this electric fan cycles on and off. Why does it cycle on and off? Well, this car has air conditioning. And if the air conditioning gets too cool, it doesn't work. And did they ever really, truly get that air conditioning problem fixed with the engine? No. Where it robs the engine of its power, you can actually be going down the road in Project Lena and turn on the air conditioning, and you'd swear to God the whole car just fell flat on its face. It's actually you're almost sitting there going, my God, I can't believe how much power has just been robbed from this car. I mean, it's just like it's actually horrible what happens. So again, by this time they had not fixed that issue, and you will actually lose almost half your gas mileage with.
Can you pull that out of my vent thing? There's a. You can grab that. I don't want that in there.
Here? Hang on.
Just get it. Get it. Get it out. I don't want that in my car. Bad leaf.
Yep.
And the other one. And the other one too. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now that we have come to the conclusion that that we have found that air conditioning does not work. The cars have 4 windows. Well, and this one has a sunroof, which is kind of nifty. And it doesn't leak. It doesn't leak. That's always nice. So again, just proving where the similarities are. They both have very similar design flaws. Air conditioning obviously wasn't working that great as far as performance on a car like Project Spirit. And over here, we find that it's the same exact issue. So surprise, surprise, folks. Now, the fuel injection on Project Lena is actually pretty doggone decent. It works, and it works well. So well, in fact, that the light tuning is really all it would need to get serious performance. Now, I know there's some of you out there that say, oh, turbos and superchargers and BS like that. Let's keep it simple. You're getting expensive. And to be honest with you, it shortens the lifespan of your engine, your oil. It's nothing but a giant wear and tear. So naturally aspirated is just fine by the Prince Magnum channel. If you want to burn up your engine, if you want to shorten the lifespan of your engine by half, please put a turbo, a supercharger, whatever you want on it, and tell me how that goes, okay? To get serious performance, you don't have to have it. And Project Lena is a fine example. And she's lasted, okay? Naturally aspirated isn't that bad. And again, her fuel injection is actually very simple and easy to work on for the most part. It does get a little complicated as you get deep enough, but that's to be expected. Now, how is that similar to Project Spirit? Well, believe it or not, despite how simple a carburetor... What's up?
Sorry. I was looking back through the messages, seeing if there was something different.
Okay. Again, Project Spirit, her carburetor, despite how simple the technology is, there was a lot of moving parts in this carburetor. This is at the time that, again, we were trying to clean up our act, and carburetors before this looked like they belonged on a tractor. In the 1970s, that started changing. We started seeing electric, we started actually seeing electric chokes on it, which, despite the fact that it doesn't work anymore, she does have an electric choke. An electric choke, electric choke. Again, proving my point, there's a lot of similarities between the two. It's just that as time went on, we complicated it a little bit more. So, this setup is very fuel efficient. It works very, very well. It does an amazing job. Okay. Bratty neighbor kids. So, oh, and real quick, we've showed this before. But if I can get Princess Faye to step over, you can actually see what makes it amazing. Right there on the side, you can see printed, made in USA. Our all-American girl. Well, minus one part that I have found on this car. Okay? So, again, there are similarities, a lot of similarities between these two. The way on Project Spirit, believe it or not, power steering was optional. You could get manual steering. In some cases, manual steering was very, it was a little difficult to work with, believe it or not. It was very difficult to work with at times. But Project Spirit's lucky enough to have power steering. It doesn't work very well. It has a seriously, and that's going to be one of the things that has to be upgraded. We're going to have to repair all of that. It uses a sleeve that runs down to her steering arm, and that's where it leaks, is down there on that sleeve and the block that leads into the sleeve. It's just one of those things. Time hasn't been very friendly to some of these parts. Does it still work? Yes. It's just manual steering, and it kind of times itself. When you get over here to Project Lena, power steering is no longer an option. It's standard practice. And right there is the power steering pump. Now, amazingly enough, something that car manufacturers screwed up, and screwed up big time on. Project Spirit, when we use her power steering fluid, is just regular Type F transmission fluid. If she had an automatic, it would be the same transmission fluid. I wouldn't have to get anything special. Come over here, power steering fluid, and a particular type of transmission fluid. Do you see the problem here? This is where they started screwing up. Okay? They really screwed themselves by doing that, because now people have to keep track of another type of fluid, and let's face facts, people don't take care of their cars. Most of the time, these Pontiacs are in very much disrepair because people don't take care of them. They don't take care of them to the point where within a few years after they leave the factory, this is just one of the rare examples that they're in great condition. By the way, that also happened with cars like Project Spirit. They would, a lot of people abused them, but they were easy to repair. Again, similarities beyond belief because of that. Now, continuing on, by today's standards, Project Lena's interior is very sparse. Then again, so is Project Spirit's. You know, Project Lena and Project Spirit, their interiors are very sparse as you continue forward. Now, when it comes to mirrors, let's real quick, I know this is going to sound silly and almost mundane, but this is important to remember. On Project Spirit, a passenger side mirror was optional. Typically, you found something like that on the grabbers. By this time, it's standard practice, but it was optional. And what type of mirrors went on here? Usually some sort of bullet-shaped mirror. Some things really don't change all that much. You know, they rounded it, the bullet shape was rounder, more aerodynamic, cut down on airflow. They even went so far to add an extra hole right here just to cut down on the drag. Actually, while talking about aerodynamics, Notice the slope back design. We've designed like this instead of making it flat right here and almost like just came down and hacked it off and then went back like that. We found that that created more drag. Ironically enough, in the 1970s, we were still doing it with some vehicles, and Project Spirit is no different. All the Mavericks came with this setup, just like here on Project Lena. Real quick, rear deck wing to help with aerodynamics, because she does have a front air dam. By the way, on the Grabber models, they did have a spoiler that went right here. They even had thinner bumpers and a special air dam for up front and thinner bumpers up there to lighten the load. It was an option for the performance package. Again, the similarities are almost uncanny. All they did was just continue to just progress. So if you like, you know, again, the technology was always there. We just tried to refine it. Notice I said tried. Again, it is debatable which is safer. I don't think so. It is debatable. Some people will say that that the newer cars are more safe. I'll argue that. Okay, continuing on. Again, you know, the aerodynamics is designed to help, you know, help with the fuel economy, and we were already starting to see that in cars like Project Spirit. It's just, again, if you continue on, you'll actually see more and more. Now let's go and take a quick look at the interiors. Again, Project Lena, her interior, for the most part, is very sparse, for the most part, by today's standards. We started seeing the incorporation of gauges a lot more at this time.
Can't see the interior if you're sitting in it.
All right, well, let's just do it like this. Okay, we see a tachometer. We see, obviously, there's the fuel gauge, temperature gauge. There's all sorts of indicator lights, or as we used to call them, idiot lights, to let us know that there's an issue with the vehicle. Cruise control, obviously, right here on the steering wheel. Airbag systems and things like that all throughout the car. This has bucket seats. Now, normally there are seat covers in here that we'll be putting back in that make the car really stylish. And to go along with all that, everything is pretty much within hand's reach. Very simple for the most part. She does have power windows and power locks. To be honest with you, this is where some of the weight comes in, because if you actually see the inside, beyond just your door panel, you'll see that the systems are very complex, very heavy, and they just don't last super long. There's a lot of plastic involved, and that is a downfall. On cars like Project Spirit, that was optional. You could get stuff like that on there, but most people didn't worry about that because those systems at this time are untested, unproven to last the test of time, and it costs more money, so why spend the money? So again, you know, the transition between the two, as a matter of fact, the driver's window has a tendency to stick, and it's kind of a pain in the neck, you know, that sort of stuff.
It's not sticking. The window's dislocated from the track.
Right, and you have to, there's a trick to it, but just one of those things. All right. Now, from what I understand, even though, to my knowledge, there was not a standard transmission offered with Project Lena, you can custom. There are ways to actually put one in here. It is a pain in the ass, to my knowledge, but it is. You can do it. Okay. So some people do that with these cars. I don't know how, if there is anybody out there that has done that, tell me about it in the comments below, you know, or maybe get in touch with me and tell me about it. Tell me about your experience. Real quick, her emergency brake right next to the gear shifter, very easy to get to.
And mine does work.
And it does work. It does work. Mine's stretched and doesn't work. So, I mean, again, it is, by today's standards, it's very sparse. There's no need for LCD monitors because a lot of that stuff is tied in to the computer, and if those monitors go wrong, You're without your heat, you're without your air conditioning, all that stuff. So, yeah, if you, real quick, if you're going to buy a modern day car, and I know many of you will, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You're buying a cell phone on wheels. And to be honest with you, the technology there is not as great as most people think. And let me explain like this. Would you keep, you know, as great as the the Motorola Razrs were, the LG Razr phones, the first, second, and generation models were, would you want to run one today? And the answer is no, you wouldn't, because phones today are much, much better. With your modern cars, it's the same exact thing. Do me a favor, the next time you, any of you, if you're watching the actual live stream right now, or you're watching the playback, go into a dealership and start getting the sales rep to show you a new car, and then in the middle of all of that, drop this line. Ask the question if there's going to be software updates with all the technology that's in that car. Ask them if there's going to be software updates for the next 7 years and beyond available for your new car, and he will give you the weirdest look, or he'll flat out tell you no. So this is why, because we're at that stage where you can get away with running. Project Lena could have software updates, and you do have to clear your computer just like you do a defrag on a regular computer, but it's the only thing the only thing you really got to worry about is the defrag or clearing the computer every now and again, which you should do every 3 months. Or you could just do like some people do and disconnect the battery and leave it overnight, and it does the same exact thing. Moving over here to Project Spirit, you'll notice right away her interior is very sparse, but very cushiony and comfortable. Okay, with Project Lena, there's a lot of emphasis on just simplicity. The bucket seats in Project Lena aren't near as comfortable as they were in the 1970s, which might explain why a lot of people fell asleep at the wheel back then. And believe it or not, Project Spirit, her bench seat is like riding on your couch. Okay, she's a little dirty right now, but we'll be cleaning her up before the next car show, which, as we're doing this live stream, is Wednesday. We will be at a 4th of July car show in Jackson, Missouri. We'll talk about that a little bit more as the video progresses. Project Spirit's bench seat and her rear seat setup, believe it or not, can seat up to 5.5, and in some cases all the way up to 6 people, depending on the size of the people you're putting in the car. So that means, believe it or not, Project Spirit can actually fit more people than Project Lena because she has front buckets. One of the things that I absolutely love about Project Spirit, and I'm going to have to sit down to show this, one of the things about the bench seat design that I love, when Princess Faye and I are cruising down the road, I can reach over, put my arm around her, and you know, we can sit right next to each other. Even with the standard transmission, we can still sit right next to each other, and it's, if you will, I joke about this, and Princess Faye gets a little upset, but y'all will understand. You know, free love and sex. Oh, right over next to us, birth control. Okay. And right over here, again, the hand crank windows. Now, in the old days with hand crank windows, one of the things that I used to say back in my day, a good hand crank window, and I could actually roll my windows up and down a total of 3 times before you got your power windows up and down once. Project Spirit and I are getting older, so we could still beat you up and down at least once. Okay? That's just the way it is. Heating and control, very simple. No need for cruise control. It was left up to the driver. This was during the days that the driver had to adapt to the vehicle, not the vehicle adapted to the drivers. Okay? So, if you will, the skill level of drivers is different compared from the 1970s or from my era to today's time. Okay? Some of you can argue that all you want, but going by the vehicles that, uh, going by the vehicles compared to yesteryear to today, that's a definite indicator of that. Um, Project Spirit did have the option of an automatic, a 3-speed automatic, the C4 automatic, which was standard, with the 302. Project Spirit did come out with a 3-speed standard transmission. The 4-speed was not really an option at that time. It was cheaper to go with the 3 speeds. And from what I understand, the Grabbers did have an option of the floor shifter with your standard transmissions, but Project Spirit, we called them standard for a reason. Automatics were an option back then. So that's why when you hear me say 3-speed standard, it was a 3-speed manual. And the 3-speed manual in its heyday was the quintessential drag racing transmission. Why? You only had 3 gears to fuss with. And if well taken care of, did last you a long time. To give you an idea, the transmission that's in here now is a 3-speed that came out of a 1967 Mustang that had a 206 bolted to it. Surprise, surprise. Which measures out, the 200 actually measures out 3.3 liters. Just a point liter smaller than Project Lena's engine. And that was in 1967. Again, Project Spirit does have a floor shift now, because if I get Princess Faye to come over here, and I'll of course need to be sitting down. If you look right here, that's where her stick shift used to be mounted, what we call the 3 on the tree. And quite literally, you would push in your clutch like such, and that was first, second, third. And believe it or not, I actually liked that setup, because like your paddle shifters of today for standard transmissions, you had your paddle shifter up here. This was actually kind of a lot like that, because your hand didn't travel that far. But when the linkage broke on the inside of the column, when that went, I was not going to take apart the steering column to fix that, and it's very hard to find those parts. We found it was easier to just go ahead and buy the Hurst Indy shifter designed for the 3-speed standard transmission. And for those of you who really love the manual transmissions, especially the old ones, you're going to love this. This is all external linkage. This is not internal. There's actually 2 rods that connect to the side of the transmission, run up alongside it, and connect into this floor shift. So, if you will, push in my clutch. There's neutral. First, second, third. It's very quick, short throw shift pattern, and it's designed, the short throw design is based all on the shifter from Hurst. So for those of you who have standard transmissions and want that short throw design, Prince Magnum, what do you recommend as the best shifter on the market for those of us who want the best, who have standard transmissions? Hurst is still the best. They've been in business since the 1950s. You will pay, but they are still the best. And as you can see, this setup will not wear out except for a small spring, and I can take it apart and fix it myself. And they still make shifters even for the modern day transmissions with internal linkage. Okay? So far, again, and real quick, just like Project Lena, that has her handbrake right over here. All I got to do is get that cable fixed. There is Project Spirit's handbrake. Very easy. Again, we're seeing a lot of similarities again. So amazingly enough, this was the economy car of its day. Project Lena was the economy car of 15 years ago. It's just that some of the technology got better, some of it got worse. It just depends on how you look at it. But the simplicity of Project Spirit and the fact that she has lasted the test of time, and that she's a survivor. But then again, so is Project Lena. Both of these cars are survivors because Project Spirit survived the Cash for Clunkers, 9/11, the problems in the 1980s. Project Spirit's a survivor. Believe it or not, Project Lena's a survivor. And what does she survive? Bad modern drivers. And the fact that she's still in great shape after all this time, again, That is absolutely amazing. Now, I know some of you are wondering, which one gets the better gas mileage? Which one gets better gas mileage? Which one is the quicker of the two? Well, Project Nina is the quicker of the two. She does lay down a little bit more power than Project Spirit, but that's not to say that we couldn't make Project Spirit faster, even with her original inline six. Surprise, surprise. We could get her to outrun Project Lena with no problem. Project Lena, we will be doing some updates to her, better muffler, better flowing mufflers, and who knows what we might do. I know we're talking about getting some sort of aftermarket tuner box that will mount inside of her and program her to be a little bit more fuel efficient and put down a little bit more power just with her original setup. And you can do that with just better mufflers. Project Spirit, we're going to rebuild her old six, but again, both cars, I can tell you, Project Lena, due to certain things, her front wheel drive and the fact that she does put down more power, she will outrun Project Spirit in a run. And I know that for at least the 8th mile. We will be testing that, but I can tell you pretty much that's the way it's going to be. Now, which one gets the better gas mileage? Believe it or not, right here. An average of 40 miles to the gallon with a good tune. If you keep up with her, keep her tuned up every 6 months. Believe it or not, 40 miles to the gallon average. What's her best? She can go all the way up to 64 miles to the gallon on a really good day. That's impressive. That's better than the hybrids. 35. Not bad. But again, we're just proving the point that, these cars do exactly what they're supposed to. They're sporty, but yet you can fit the whole family in. These are the hot rods you don't have to give up. And that, if anything, is a true testament to why we do what we do here on the Prince Magnum channel. Hot rods that you never have to give up when you have a family. So, there you have it, folks. There's kind of a good close look at both cars. And again, if you like cars like, if you like doing hot rods that you can pretty much do on a budget, that's what we do here on the Prince Magnum channel. And as time goes on, we'll continue to show you how you can fix up those cars on a very tight budget. Because let's face facts, not all of us have mommy and daddy to help throw down thousands of dollars at a project car that we're just going to blow up in a couple of years after we're done. So, there you have it. If you have any positive feedback, be sure to leave it in the comments box below. We're always looking for positive feedback. And if you had any questions about either car, be sure to leave that also in the comments box below. Any hate will be deleted or you'll be made fun of. Also, if you'd like to see more of Project Lena, you would like to see more of her, be sure to also leave that in the box below. We already know that everyone wants to see a great deal of Project Spirit. That's just kind of a given. She's the star of the show anyway. But this is one heck of an amazing co-star. I love Pontiac. It's like one of my favorite car companies from GM. So again, both cars pretty awesome. Be sure to check out my Patreon account. We are having the giveaway. No one's really had an opportunity to donate. I think a lot of members of the Maverick Nation are just tight on money. But you don't have to become a full-time subscriber. Right now, you could actually just about drop $1 in there and probably have an excellent chance at winning that giveaway. And that $1 is, believe me, there's more in there worth than that $1. Okay? And the giveaway ends August the 7th. To go along with that, be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. And the easiest way to spot me on Facebook, look up Bert TV. Look up Big Bad Bert from Bert TV, and it's really easy to get hooked up with me, and you'll get to know me on a more personal level. There's even that chance you could even have a phone conversation with me through that whole setup. And I don't mind talking to members of the Maverick Nation. I love talking to members of the Maverick Nation. Also, again, we will be in Jackson, Missouri at a car show Both cars should be on display that day. I'm not 100% sure. We might just be taking Project Spirit, but there's an excellent chance that we'll be taking both cars that day, which is going to be awesome. So we will be in attendance 4th of July this week at Jackson, Missouri. Friday, we will be back out at Lazarus Bar and Grill. I will be up on stage, so if you want to have a chance to hear me sing live, which from what I understand, I can't, I don't, you know, I know every time I listen to the playback, I'm just not happy with the playback when we load videos, but that's just one of those things. You know, I'm not always happy with that, but from what I understand, live, it sounds a whole lot better. So if you want the live experience, beyond just the Prince Magnum channel, see me at Lazarus Bar and Grill. We'll be there about 9 o'clock-ish. And feel free to come up, give me a great big hug, shake my hand, high five, fist bump, whatever. We'll get pictures together. We'll do all the selfies you want, and we'll have a great time. So be there or be square. I think that just about covers it. Okay. As usual, get out there and work on a project. I don't care if it's an old car or a newer car. Well, not that new. But get out there and do something with yourself. Idle hands and a creative mind make horrible bedfellows. That's just living a pipe dream. So don't live a pipe dream. If you have a sweetheart sweeper off her feet, do something special for that sweetheart. You know, if you're working on a project, they're having to let you spend money. So spend some time. Do something with them. And as always, for all of you out there, it doesn't matter what you're going through in life, if no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24.